Hi, everyone. Welcome back in this second segment of the first episode of the Big Reset, a special initiative between Business Insider and ORF. We have with us the founder of a year and a half year old financial technology firm, Bharat Pay, which helps offline merchants accept digital payments. It reportedly has over 4 million merchants on it on board, and not just in big cities, but also in smaller places ranging from Jaipur to Warangal. A very warm welcome to Ashneer Grover, who has launched COVID 19 insurance protection cover for shopkeepers and has partnered with ICICI Lombard for the same. This is just one example of how this particular firm is chipping in on the opportunities as well as its support efforts in this current coronavirus pandemic that has caught each one of us off guard. Mr. Grover, welcome to the Big Reset. And we have with us Kanchan Gupta, a veteran journalist, who will also share wisdom and analysis as we take this conversation forward. Ashneer, you've dispersed about 25,000 loans worth over 140 crores so far. That's the number that I have. If there is an updated number, do share. And what has the trend been like in this lockdown?
Yeah, so see, the lockdown has been effective 22nd of March, right? And most of the loans that we had disbursed were pre this period. Post this period, we have gone slow in the disbursals, but what we have gone very active on is getting more and more people to apply for loans
Mhm,
because shopkeepers also have a lot of time on their hand now
mhm,
because the business in general is down. So we are sort of encouraging all our shopkeepers to apply for loans, do their KYC, get the files ready, so that when they come back to business, we will quickly sort of disburse these loans as soon as the lockdown lifts. So for us, this is
okay.
actually, as I say, it's a period of building the stock, right? So we are building the stock, which is the loan
Hmm,
applications. And as soon as the shutters open,
hmm.
we'll be back in business.
And what does the pipeline look like? What kind of interest are you seeing?
So the pipeline is huge. I think if you look at it, we were disbursing close to anywhere 5,000 to 6,000 loans a month, right? I think when this opens up,
Hmm,
at least on the demand side of things, I think the applications we are expecting to be ready should be twice of this. So somewhere between 10 to 15,000 shopkeepers should be ready with files to avail the loan. Now it's a function of how the business comes up. So if the business on the QR comes
hmm,
up faster, they get the disbursal faster. For us, it's a very automated thing. If the customer is paying you on the QR, we are so how quickly the customer also comes back. It's just not the shutter opening. It is also
hmm,
whether the customer walks back to the market in what
hmm.
quantum, and that will decide how fast we are able to disburse.
I think I want to share like some personal experiences here. In this lockdown, one of the things that I am seeing play out is the might of the neighborhood store. As opposed to the big malls and the department stores and stuff like that. The mom and pop store, the kirana wala in my locality, and the relationship between me and him has evolved in a huge way just in the last 15-20 days. Mr. Gupta, would you agree? Is that's
Yes, of course.
uh, I mean, for example, I went to him and I thought, stocking up 5 kilos of rice is a fair amount and it's not hoarding. And he caters to a fairly large number of people. It's a small store, but it's a long lane of apartments. And he was quickly there to tell me that, but sir, आपको अभी तो पिछले हफ्ते दिया है, अभी रहने दीजिए, किसी और को मिल जाएगा, आपके लिए तो मैं रख दूंगा, that conversation, and I saw him do that to other people. It was just spectacular. And I think, but the question for you, Ashneer, is it's not just the request for loans. There will be a lot more requests for loans because business is going to be down. People will need financial assistance, especially the shopkeepers, etc. But as a business, it may not be wise for you to lend them money at a stage, not to all of them at least. How are you going to balance that out?
No, you're absolutely right. See, I think the demand for loans will be high for sure,
Hmm.
right? And there's no denying it. Now, the question is, even if you lend out and if the customers don't come back,
Hmm.
or to don't come back to the extent that you've given loans out, Or if there's a second wave and there's a second phase of lockdown, right? So you might have disbursed when the lockdown lifted, and then there was another lockdown when you cannot collect the money back, right? So that is a risk, but that is a risk as a lender. Everyone should be willing to price in and take, right? Unlike the banks who completely go in one direction, right? So the banks have a very simple philosophy. When someone needs money, they'll run away from you, and when you don't need money, they'll run towards you, right? I don't believe in that. I think it's with this segment especially, and especially the grocery segment, right? Even now, I see almost like on grocery, the volumes and numbers being 80% of what they were before. The segment, food and beverage, restaurants, right? In our case, on a QR transaction from 2 rupees to 500 rupees yesterday, right? And it's been going up every
Okay.
day. So I think grocery as a
This
segment
is
is
the
doing
average
good.
ticket
I
size.
would not shy away from giving loans to them. Average
This is
ticket
the
size of a
average ticket
transaction,
size.
right?
Okay.
So on the QR.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
That's interesting, Mr. Gupta.
Yeah.
It's nearly
So
doubled.
the
You
thing
know,
is, you'll have
I
to.
think he has a point. He has a point. I would think that the average corner shop or the local shop has been doing more business than normal because people of late have had a tendency to buy and stock. So if somebody like you bought 5 kilos, so overall sales would be, I guess, notionally higher than usual. But what happens is that after the lockdown is lifted and the real impact, economic impact sinks in, that is when people will start spending less. And when people start spending less, shops will start earning less. I mean, that's common sense. So, what does he do in
Yeah.
that situation? Is he factoring that in?
Absolutely. See, there are two kind of shopkeepers, right? There is a discretionary spend shopkeeper, right? Which is like say anyone selling a mobile phone, an electrical shop, right? Or
Even
anything
an
which
ice
is sort
cream
of
is
a
a
discretionary.
discretionary item nowadays.
It is right, like, but yeah. So the whole point is you cannot go ballistic on the discretionary spend, like, right? It is clearly going to come down, right? I mean, if people are going to have job insecurity and therefore cash flow insecurity, they will defer out the large ticket things out, right? Whether it gets deferred out to 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, that we will see. But so clearly, we are not, high on giving a loan to a mobile shop any longer, right? Because we think it's going to see subdued demand and there will be, a lot of dead stock lying with them in any case, right? I think where we are, still aggressive on, and we will be aggressive on, is food and beverage and grocery. Grocery is the least risky because it is even open today.
So, like he's saying, is grocery really the demand for grocery really that inelastic in 2020?
No, no. You see, groceries will always sell. Basics will always sell. Uh, because of the uncertainty of the times, whenever somebody is going out to the shop, the tendency is to buy a little more, a little extra. So right now, the grocery stores are definitely doing way better than normal times. But my point was, I'm not talking about discretionary spending, like about people going out and buying a mobile set or a laptop or whatever, anything which is a high priced item. But even normal spending, my guess is that it would, and this is common sense speaking,
Yeah.
that even daily expenditure will be curbed when the real economic impact is felt by the people.
So
So,
the other question is, this also this whole rise of or the improvement of people's relationship between their neighborhood store and stuff also cuts at the. I mean, and this is not related to Ashni while he comes back online. I just wanted to pop this question to you for the rising competition in this online delivery space. Even a Zomato and Swiggy, they're all delivering groceries. You already have existing players like Big Basket or Grofers, etc. We'll probably touch upon this in the coming episodes, Mr. Gupta. But any initial thoughts while we wait for Ashneer?
Yeah, one thing is for sure that I think people will now feel more kindly towards brick and mortar stores. That the human bonding which has happened in this 2.5 weeks is huge. But the problem happens when online e-retail stores they start offering discounts, they start offering massive cuts on the price tag, better deals, and I don't mean to sound frivolous, but that's the China model. The world buys into cheap goods and services. And so we'll see that happen again. And in fact, the e-retail stores, to make up for this loss, for this period when they were non-functional, I think they will go berserk and they will just kill the market with all kinds of deals. They have a huge inventory lying with them. Their sellers have a huge inventory lying with them. Amazon's own brand inventory must be huge by now. So we are looking at a price war, and they will definitely win that price war. And the poor corner store, the pop and mom store, they will take a hit. So that's the way it plays out.
Yes, which is what we were asking.
Lending money. Coming back to lending,
and which is what Ashneer does to these people.
I'm surprised that he feels that discretionary spending will be down. I don't think so. I think people will still line up to buy the latest mobile phone or gadget on their credit cards.
And also, Ashneer, just to consider this fact that I've been staring at the same mobile every day as opposed to 6 hours earlier. Now 18 hours. And I'm probably more bored of my mobile now than I've ever been. Just to add my own little touch.
No, absolutely. See, I hope you can hear me now. But see,
yes.
My view is that there's a larger India which cannot afford the discretionary spend going forward, right? Like you and I will be the slightly more privileged guys, right? I think there is a larger India out there which is really staring at a very difficult time ahead, right? The kind of migration you have seen from cities to villages tells you that people didn't have any visibility of any work, even when the lockdown was for 21 days, right? And when they have uncertainty on how long the lockdown is going to be, they're going to stay in the villages. So I think my view is that economic activity is going to be slower, spend is going to be slower. Discretionary should come much more than non-discretionary, and I think that is what I am banking on, that my loan should go on a restaurant guy who wants to restart a restaurant, or should go to a grocery guy, as against to go, against building anything for a, discretionary spend during Diwali, right? I think this year's Diwali seems to be a whitewash to some extent.
We've already had 2 bad Diwalis. In fact, 3 if we want to count 2016 onwards. Maybe after Diwali, 2016 post Diwali, we got the demonetization. So 2 years maybe. So what does that do to your business here? It's sounding really very ominous. How are you planning to tide over this?
So I think from a business perspective, I think it's the best time for me. See, the thing to look at is that I was servicing small merchants, and the main product I had, of course, people think we are about QR acceptance. We are, but the clear revenue product for me was always a loan, right? So the demand for a loan in this segment all of a sudden goes up significantly, right? So in fact, I am basing for a higher quantum of business.
Okay. How much would that be? What is the jump that you're expecting?
So I was hoping to build a 1,000 crore book in this year. I will still hold my target on that.
Okay. And how much was it earlier, last year at the end of 2019?
So we have so far disbursed 140 crores.
So you'll not make
which
it
is
to
the last
1,000.
6 months.
Okay.
Yeah. So in some sense, a 6 to 7 times jump is what I'm expecting to do in the next year, as against what I've done in the previous year.
So you are still holding on to that target. But my question remains, right? There is a demand for loan. If I'm struggling to survive, if I'm struggling to keep my business afloat, I need a loan. But you are not bound to give me a loan because my visibility is not very great.
Correct. Yeah, of
How
course.
do you
So yeah, no. So I think.
Also, on that note, do you have an estimate on the NPA figure, the amount of money that does not come back?
I think, see, the NPA figures on legacy businesses will clearly go up, right? So there's no denying that, right? So if, I think anyone who's not factoring in their NPAs to go up 3 times of what the normative level was, will be in for a shock, right? So that much is absolutely clear to me, that the NPA figures on legacy business is going to be pretty high. On new loans, I think from a cycle perspective, it is the best time to get in, right? If you get on a loan in the worst of times, your NPAs on the next cycle technically should be lesser, right? So I think it's all about where on the cycle you are, right? Existing loans, huge book already built out, you should be worried, right? And therefore your ability to even lend out more gets impacted. But if you're just about starting to lend out big time, I think there can't be better time than what it is now.
Mr. Gupta, do you agree with that? There's never been a better time for a company like this.
As a business strategy, this sounds very good. But
I think your question is, will the money come back?
Will the money come back? If the going gets really tough, and if the market is squeezed for money, if income doesn't happen, if jobs don't happen, by the time the migrants actually come back and units get going, or it also depends on how badly hit are the MSMEs. If they are really badly hit and they are unable to sustain a workforce, so there's a wide variety of factors, and nobody can say it for sure. But in the immediate term, in the opening weeks and at least opening couple of months, so we are looking up to Q2. I think the situation is going to be pretty grim. I mean, after all, government itself is cutting budgeting for its ministries. It's slashing, in fact, not cutting. So there is bound to be some impact on that.
So for you, Ashneer, if the quantum of business is going to go up, are you going to hire more people, or are you going to let people go?
No, so we are on track to what our plan was, right? So see, here's the thing. I don't believe in quick hiring and firing, right? I think the moment you do that, then the longer picture or the bigger picture is not clear to you, right? I think every business should understand there are cycles.
No, which is what the question I'm trying to ask is that if you see this as an opportunity to give out as many loans as possible to the people who need it more, are you going to increase your workforce and send them out on the streets and say, go find me takers?
Yeah, of course. So the moment
so I'm going to hire more people,
the moment the lockdown lifts, I will have more people on the ground acquiring new merchants, right? And these new merchants will over time farm into the loans that we give out, right? So there's no denying it. In fact, even as a company, it's become fashion to cut people at some level. It sounds like good PR. It sounds even better PR if you cut your own salary and the senior management team salary.
Yeah.
But I don't believe in that, right? I have actually given 20% increments to my team. Wow. And I closed my appraisals 2 days before, right? So
nice.
To me, it is all about saying, cycles will come and go. Can you maintain your sanity in all the cycles and be ready to build a bigger business as against just playing with the times?
Fantastic. I think I should laud your effort on that. A 20% hike in the times of coronavirus. A lot of people who are watching, take this as a cue and go questioning the bosses.
That's really very generous.
Yes, and that is definitely does not include my team. Don't ask me for any money. So those who are watching. But anyway, One last question. I think we would like to circle back to the point where we left with Vijay, which was basically the moratorium as a policy suggestion, a recommendation. Would you also concur with Paytm's Vijay Shekhar Sharma, who said that the government should look at putting a freeze on credit ratings for people who are not able to, repay their loans? And do you have a stake in that at all in your own business? Do those credit ratings matter?
Yeah, so see, here's the thing. I think it is not wise for the government to come into business, is my general view, right? So even though there are people who think moratorium is a good thing, it is not a directive, it's a suggestion, right? So, have a major disconnect there. Either you tell us what to do, and with an iron fist, or don't tell us what to do, right? Like as businesses, right? Most businesses are pretty efficient because of the capital involved, and they'll figure out what's the best way to do it. I think if the moratorium has to be there, then it has to be through and through, right? You cannot say the borrowers, credit doesn't get impacted, but the NBFC's credit will get impacted because the bank which has given loan to that NBFC, his credit gets impacted. So if it has to be given, it has to be given as a pass-through up the chain, right? Right up to the banks. Or the government stays away from it and let the people figure out how they're going to do it, right? Because we are businesses, we have to collect our money back, right? So we'll figure out the way. We are not like heartless, don't know what's happening in the market. In fact, we know much more, closer on what's happening in the market sometimes than the government. So I'm not a big fan on the government meddling with, with businesses. And therefore, I have a slightly different view. I believe they should not have come with the moratorium at all. I think all lenders would have come to a very efficient solution by themselves.
Though, what would that be, for example?
For example, for us, it was moratorium for till the lockdown, right? I mean, when you don't have visibility for 3 months, but you have all of a sudden come and said for 3 months you don't need to repay a loan, right? And then saying in subtitles, oh, it's just a suggestion, it's not a directive, right? You created too much confusion in the market already, right? Customer will think, oh, I will not have to give a loan, right? Now, a guy driving an Audi would think, oh, I also don't have to give 3 months, EMI on my car, right? So that guy was in a position to pay, right? Like now, but all of a sudden you have created this confusion by saying this is what we believe should happen, but we don't have any say in it, but we are suggesting it to happen. So I'm a bit saddened by that, ruling or whatever directive came out, right? I think the government should have stayed away from it. We have probably the best financial system in the world. We've shown our robustness in 2008. We can find our way through this. I think if the government did not step in 2008, why did they step in now is something I don't understand.
Mr. Gupta, your thoughts?
Yeah, no. From his perspective, he has a point.
Because his cash flow has been affected. Some people who would have repaid
small businesses. It is also true that small businesses, they wanted some sort of a relief, some sort of an assurance of a relief. In the normal course, RBI can issue only directives. RBI cannot issue an instruction to banks. Even on rate changes, it says it proposes a rate change and then it leaves it to the banks to implement it. If you are not criticizing that, you really should not be criticizing this. Number one. Number two, what have they said? They have just put a moratorium on repayments for 3 months. They are not giving any discounts on it for you, nor are they writing off the interest on it for you. So that money is not being written off. There are no losses being incurred. The point which Vijay made was different. What he said was that during this period, or because of the impact, if small businesses, for whom, you see, for big business, big industry, big entrepreneurs, credit ratings mean nothing. I mean, we know how, despite awful credit ratings, they have had access to enormous amounts of money which they never paid back. So we are not talking about them. We are talking of small businesses, your clients, for whom it is important to have a good credit rating, so that from time to time they can get loans, they have access to finance to tide over crisis. Now, if their credit rating is impacted, then the future of their business is impacted. I personally think it is a damn good idea that during the period, starting the beginning point, until such time things settle down, whatever that time is, this period will not be treated as a period to judge your credit rating or to sort of declare somebody as a defaulter, because that
isn't that part of the moratorium?
No, this credit rating is not part of the moratorium. I don't think so, because that's a separate.
Yeah, so Shriram, that's my point, right? Like, the better thing for RBI or for the government to do would have been to tell that for the next 3 months the credit rating should not be changed, right? Now, if you had done that, then all the financial institutions would have taken a call whether they are able to collect, not collect. And if they're not able to collect, do they want to extend the cash flow moratorium, right? So, I think the real thing that then should have been saying, if a business defaults or is not able to service loan for the next 3 months, the credit bureau should not mark it as a default, right? And then let the institutions do whatever they want to do. If they want to give holiday, give holiday. They don't want to give holiday.
Mr. Gupta, what he's saying is that the moratorium should not be just for the borrower, but for the entire value chain, wherever the money flows through. I think that's the small point of disagreement.
I agree with him, but I'm just saying that you see, governments also exist to make people feel comfortable, to make people feel less burdened and less stressed. So small gestures also count. So you can't really, and these are not normal times. In normal times, if the government had said, "Oh, I'm declaring a moratorium," I would have howled in protest that how can you do something like this? But these are abnormal times. And I agree with him that there the announcement should have been more wholesome, and the credit bureau should have been told, should have been instructed that for the next 3 months, credit ratings will not be touched. They will neither improve nor
deteriorate for the entire value chain.
So for the entire value chain. So just shut down the credit bureau for the next 3 months. I think that is the way it should have been done.
Great. I think we are completely timed out here, Ashneer. Is there any closing remarks that you would like to give in your lessons that you have taken home in this coronavirus crisis, and how do you think the recovery will pan out? I think we've spoken a little bit about your own businesses. Why not speak about the larger digital economy? Is it here to grow, or will the growth slow down in the post-coronavirus time?
No, I think the growth will slow down. I think what you will see different from a US or other economies is this was a great opportunity. A lockdown was a great opportunity for e-commerce businesses to actually get discovered, right? Everyone was sitting at home. Everyone would have wanted खाना भी घर पे आ जाए और दवाई भी घर पे आ जाए और ग्रोसरी भी घर पे आ जाए. But unfortunately, because of the way the lockdown has worked, the Flipkarts and Amazon of the world actually don't have the supply or people to supply. The Zomatos and Swiggies of the world have the same problem, right? So what could have been a great discovery phase and therefore perennial demand for e-commerce sector, in my view, because of the supply constraint, that opportunity has been lost, at least in this lockdown, right? And therefore, I still think the smaller businesses will come out stronger first out of it, and then the e-commerce will follow up later.
Also, the other thing is, we are talking about digital businesses. So, on the question of discovering new apps and new possibilities, Zoom has been a big discovery for a lot of people. They went from 10 to 200 million in a matter of days. The other example I can think of is a house party, which has become a rage amongst youngsters. I think so. I think the digital economy is throwing up options for people, for those who can afford it, but a larger section of the population still remains left out of the fun and frolic that's happening. For them, it's still a question of survival. And we are all here together to make it possible for all those people who are struggling in one way or the other. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for taking your time out. I know we have stretched this a little beyond what we had planned, but this was the big debut of the partnership between Business Insider and ORF, and it had to be as grand as it could be. So thank you, Ashneer, and thanks to all of those hundreds of viewers who've been tuned in for the last hour or so, listening to the great insights coming in from both the entrepreneurs as well as Mr. Kanchan Gupta from ORF. In the days to come, we will bring you a lot more insights from very varied worlds, because quite honestly, we don't recognize the society that it can be once this lockdown ends and the world starts to move towards normalcy. It will be a slow process. So prepare yourself with wisdom, prepare yourself with information, read the right things, listen to the right people. And that's what we are here to bring you. This is Sriram Iyer signing off on behalf of Business Insider. Thank you so much.